Bonjour à tous. Jean-Baptiste Rayet, directeur pays Danemark. Je tenais à vous remercier d'être aussi nombreux pour ce webinaire hydrogène en vue de la business expédition que nous organiserons au Danemark et en Norvège en septembre. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue. Veuillez s'il vous plaît couper vos micros et caméras, sauf si vous êtes intervenant. Enfin, ce webinaire sera enregistré. Nous aurons deux intervenants ce matin du Danemark et de la Norvège. I am very happy and honored to welcome you for this webinar on hydrogen. You are almost 70 participants, which is a sign that hydrogen will play an essential part on our energy transition in France. Norway and Denmark have always been front runner in these aspects. Our two keynote speakers of this morning will describe potential on our two countries. Quelques mots en français, a few words in French. Le Danemark est un des pays en pointe dans la recherche et le développement d'une nouvelle filière hydrogène décarbonée. Ce vecteur d'énergie peut potentiellement être un rouage essentiel dans la transition énergétique danoise par le triple rôle qu'il endosse: carburant, producteur de chaleur et stockage de l'énergie. L'hydrogène serait un vecteur énergétique qui permettrait de compléter et de stabiliser la conversion danoise vers les énergies renouvelables. Le Danemark s'est donné comme objectif d'atteindre l'indépendance énergétique vis-à-vis des énergies fossiles d'ici 2050. Selon les autorités danoises, la part des énergies renouvelables dans la consommation d'électricité danoise s'élève à 72% en 2019. L'hydrogène constitue un rouage essentiel de stockage de l'énergie dans la transition verte. Elle permettrait de pallier la variabilité des sources renouvelables d'électricité en permettant de stocker de l'énergie. Au niveau des transports, le Danemark s'est doté d'une importante filière hydrogène avec l'ambition de décarboner le secteur des transports. Le gouvernement danois a annoncé dès 2012 un plan énergie 2020 prévoyant la mise en place d'une série d'initiatives concernant les infrastructures hydrogènes et les voitures à PAC, pile à combustible. Enfin, la loi de finances 2020 prévoit un financement en faveur de la technologie Power-to-X. Ludovic, the floor is yours.
Merci Jean-Baptiste. Je suis Ludovic Aubé, le directeur de la Chambre de commerce franco-norvégienne basée à Oslo. Nous sommes ravis de coopérer avec vous sur cet événement. Cela a beaucoup de sens, je pense, de promouvoir les opportunités pour les entreprises françaises sur le secteur de l'hydrogène au Danemark et en Norvège. Deux marchés extrêmement dynamiques, ambitieux, mais aussi très complémentaires sur leur approche pour l'hydrogène. Nous travaillons déjà depuis longtemps sur ce secteur en Norvège, car plusieurs de nos membres français et norvégiens sont extrêmement actifs. Plusieurs partenariats ont déjà été créés entre grands groupes français et norvégiens, mais aussi avec des PME françaises. On voit beaucoup de potentiel, notamment sur les applications maritimes. Please allow me to switch to English now to introduce you with our two special guests today. We will give you information about the hydrogen ambitions and main projects in Denmark and Norway. Our first speaker will be Mr. Thijs Luisten Jensen, Director of the Hydrogen Denmark. He will be followed by Ms. Ingebjørg Telnes Wilhelmsen, Director of the Norwegian Hydrogen Forum. We really thank both of you for taking the time to share your input with us today. After these presentations, our colleagues Brigitte and Mathilde will present you the business expedition that will take place in Denmark and Norway in September. We won't have time, unfortunately, for Q&A today, but we invite the participants to use the chat in Zoom or send us an email with comments or questions, and we will come back to you as soon as possible. So Thijs, the floor is yours. You will just have to tell us next when you want us to move to the next slide. You have to unmute your mic, Thijs.
Yes, a very 2021 thing to start talking into a muted microphone. Well, anyway, good morning to you all. Bonjour. I'm sorry that that my French-speaking abilities ain't good enough to do this in French, but nonetheless, it's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to be with you this morning and to give you a short introduction to hydrogen in Denmark and both what is currently going on and the perspectives that we're seeing in terms of hydrogen as part of the future energy system in both Denmark and Europe. Just to begin with, if we go to the next slide, a few words on who I am, who we are. Hydrogen Denmark is, as the slide says, the gateway to hydrogen and power tracks in Denmark. We are the National Hydrogen Association, the starting point for companies and research institutions working with hydrogen in all shapes and forms, meaning not necessarily that the end project will be hydrogen, but also be a hydrogen-based fuel, ammonia or methanol, but that the hydrogen is some part, is basic part of the equation. And if we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Then you can see that our membership is composed of a very different range of companies incorporating the whole value chain of hydrogen, from the very early renewable energy production in Denmark, especially centered around the development of wind and offshore wind, all the way to electrolyzers, to energy companies, gas network, fuel cell producers, methanol and hydrogen distributors, etc., and as well a number of international and French companies, as well as Danish, distinctly Danish company startups, etc. So yeah, but enough about us. Let's go to the topic of the day, which is hydrogen. And hydrogen, the dream transition. So exactly, and in our perspective, hydrogen, and I think many of you will know this and hopefully agree, is sort of the Swiss Army knife of energy, and thereby also the key to the transition of the energy system. Hydrogen can be used in so many different forms that it can help us to move the renewable energy, the commodity that will be green power, into all sorts of shapes of the energy system. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, and first and foremost, that is in at least in our perspective, a matter of integrating the different sectors that up until now has been of the energy system, that up until now has been the different sectors has been very independent: heating, electricity system, transportation, etc., has not really been combined, the gas sector, and we will need to combine them, and we will need to exchange energy between the different pillars of the energy sector, both in order to have the flexibility we need in an energy system that will be based much more on fluctuating power production from wind and solar, but also in order to use the energy as efficient as possible. Here is also a matter of, on the same time as we transform the energy system, then hydrogen is also a key enabler for Denmark, but I think in particularly also for Europe, and I think that's also a very important point from at least in my understanding from a French perspective, but you will know better, obviously, that this is also an enabler of jobs, export, and at least in theory, unlimited growth, but at least growth so far as hydrogen being the key enabler, a new internationally important technology, and whoever sort of gets ahead in that race will be seeing a lot of jobs and a lot of technology value creation, which is also why I think that this is such a key point in not only Danish and French policy, but also in a Europe-wide perspective, and that there will be, I think, let's not fool ourselves, there will be a race between Europe, Asia, and America about the fostering these technologies in the best possible ways when we look at the next 15 years. So also a very large economic perspective, as well as important climate perspective when we look at hydrogen. So yeah, next slide, please. And things are luckily happening very quickly in Denmark as well as in Europe. We see that a number of companies are setting up new projects, that there will be, we have several electrolyzer projects under construction where the hydrogen that will be produced will be based on renewable energy, will be used for both chemical processes in traditional refining, will be used for methanol production, and will be used for hydrogen for transportation. And I think this is just the beginning. We have also seen that, and now that we are in a Danish-Norwegian setting also this morning, it's fair to mention also that the large passenger ferry going every day between Copenhagen and Oslo, for instance, is intent to switch to hydrogen. So a huge undertaking, obviously. So a lot of things is going on in all sectors, from agriculture, transportation, industry, and traditional chemical process, to bring green hydrogen into the equation. But obviously, and this is only a modest beginning if we are to create energy, the amount of energy and the amounts of hydrogen that needed to really make an impact in the green transition. Here also bringing down the cost is obviously key. Volume up, cost down. So if we move to the next slide, what was actually decided here in Denmark just last week. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. What was decided next year, and I apologize for the one pillar here being in Danish, but it was what was available due to the fact that it was only agreed last week, but is to construct, basically in the middle of the North Sea, an artificial island that will be sort of the center point for a massive expansion of offshore wind production, that we will use much more power, put up much more wind turbines than we will be able to fuel, then we will be able to consume in the traditional Danish electricity grid, and also that we will be able to export via interconnectors to the other countries around the North Sea, which will hopefully also expand their power production. So initially 3 gigawatts, moving forward to 2030, going up to 10 gigawatt, but potentially building more than 100 gigawatts of renewable power. And if we are to utilize that power, if we are to use it, we will need to transform it into hydrogen. It's the only way, and we need this island and an integrated network to do it. It will be the largest construction effort ever undertaking in Denmark, and is, in our perspective, a huge shift in sort of the whole perception of energy creation, and will obviously lead to a very strong value chain all the way down from the huge amount of power, which is to be seen as sort of the commodity that we will bring in from the North Sea, where we traditionally harvested oil. Now we will harvest the wind, we'll transform it to hydrogen, potentially also other fuels, and bring it to the energy sector and export it around Europe. So huge potential. Construction will start as soon as absolutely possible. Will of course be an ongoing process for a number of years, and along with similar plants in the Baltic Sea, this will be a powerhouse for hydrogen production in Europe. It is perhaps in that way the most important step, even though it's in first and foremost a wind producing product. The hydrogen will be the enabler for that to actually happen. Yeah, and I think these also obviously create vast business opportunities in Denmark, in Northern Europe, but also between Denmark and France. And I just took the logos of Life and Green Hydrogen System as a symbol of this. That's to the Danish and French company that recently signed a common projects and joint agreement. But that's just an example. I think my point with that is that there will be huge business opportunities. Vast ambitious hydrogen strategy set in motion in France. Also, this goes both ways. I mean, there will be opportunities for a number of cooperation projects taking place both in Denmark and in France. And I think it's also here important to remember that the whole European process of important projects of common European interest will be able to hopefully foster an even closer cooperation between France, Denmark, the Nordics in that regard. At least that's our ambition, and I know that that's also the ambition of a number of our members, that they do want to expand the cooperation both on a scientific and a commercial level with France, and both the activities in Denmark and in France. I very much appreciate also the French leadership on the hydrogen issue. So next slide. And in terms of that, I think it's important to mention that this is not sort of a closed platform where we're playing for the same few euros or kronos. No, this is a pot that we can actually expand. That there are tremendous opportunity to create what I think would previously be called a hydrogen economy. I think maybe that's still a very suitable setting, but that we will be able to harvest much more energy basically by producing hydrogen, and thereby using the hydrogen also to create a number of other industries, electrolyzers, fuel cells, cars, chemical processes, other engineering parts, and create this whole new value chain with Europe also, which if Europe seizes this opportunity can go all the way from hydrogen production in the North Sea to the Airbus planes that will be fueled by hydrogen, as Airbus has announced, and made in France, Europe as always, going into the next decade. So that value chain from basically from wind turbine in the North Sea to a plane flying over the French Alps is I think represents a quite unique opportunity for Europe, and both in terms of the green transition and in terms of jobs and growth. So yeah, next slide please, and I will finish now. I spent far too much time. So anyway, the value chain continues to grow stronger. We see huge opportunities in Denmark, but it's obvious that it cannot be realized to its full potential by us alone. We need cooperation with other countries. I think here both the Nordic region as a whole. I think Ingeborg will obviously also address that, but also in a cooperation with the rest of Europe, and especially an important hydrogen player as France will be key. And with that, I will end my, I think, a little bit too long presentation, and wish you all a great seminar. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and not least, if you have further questions or comments, then you're welcome to contact me or my colleagues. Thank you very much.
So I guess I'm next. Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here with you together this morning, and I am happy to share a few words about the hydrogen sector in Norway. And I would like to present an overview of the hydrogen policy, and then point out some highlights of Norway's great potential in hydrogen. But first, I would like to say a few words about the Norwegian Hydrogen Forum, in case you haven't heard about us before. So next slide, please. So this is an overview of our members, and there is a pretty large increase of hydrogen in Norway. So these logos are getting smaller and smaller. But hopefully you are able to see. We are a national association, and our members, as the same in Denmark, as Thijs, my colleague, said, represent the whole hydrogen value chain, from research, development, education, production of hydrogen and production of hydrogen technology, production of cars, and we even have governments joining our forum. So it's one big happy family, and I think that what we seen the latest is that there has been a especially interest from equipment suppliers which currently deliver equipment to the oil and gas market. So I think it's very positive that they are now looking into hydrogen and want to join the green transformation. So in regards to these companies, you probably know many of them, at least I hope, before, but all of them are quite clear that they look at France as a very important country, and we look forward to future cooperation between France and Norway. Next, please. So, what is the big picture for hydrogen policy in Norway? As you may know, there was presented a hydrogen strategy in June last summer on our conference. And our expectations were high, but unfortunately not quite met. It was not very ambitious. However, an action plan for green shipping was presented in December by the government, and in our national budget for this year, there has been 10 million euros allocated to hydrogen, and that is a very small amount if we compare to other countries in Europe, France, for instance. But it's the first time I read the word million and hydrogen in the same sentence, so at least it's a good start. And in addition to the 10 million euros, there is, of course, a significant amount that is routed through our funding agencies. For instance, Enova has significant budget, so there are more money in play. And I would like to mention that also Norway joined IPCEI in December. We came last, but good, hopefully. So in regards to timeline, we are, of course, very behind France, but we had a call for interest opened in December 18 and closed now recently on February the 1st. And as you say, we also have, the government had also presented an action plan for the period 2021 to 2030. And they point out in that climate plan that hydrogen will play an important role, especially in the marine sector, in the industry, and of course heavy duty. So those three are the highlights from the government's perspective. And they tighten their requirements in regards to public procurement towards zero emission, which will help hydrogen, obviously. So that is great news. And they also propose to increase the CO2 tax, triple it actually, in the next 10 years. And it's election for parliament, September the 13th. So I think this will be around where you're planning, just a bit after you're planning to have your Denmark and Norway expedition. But the thing is that when it's election year, no parties would like to go out and say, okay, we're going to increase the taxes. So it's a lot of debate on the tax these days. But from our perspective, it's quite clear that we mean that we need to increase the CO2 tax to be able to succeed. So hopefully fossil will be a bit more expensive in the future. I also briefly would like to mention that there will be a national transport plan that will come this spring, and a white paper on long-term value of Norwegian energy resources. And now you can go to the next, Matilda. And as a part of this white paper, there will be a roadmap for hydrogen. And this is great news. And I think the government, at least what they say, they realized that the hydrogen strategy was not the best. So now they're making a roadmap. And as you see on this slide, there were a top-level meeting where the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy invited all the industry leaders to come with their input to how should this roadmap look, where should the hubs be. So I think this doesn't happen every day in Norway, that the Prime Minister and the Oil and Petroleum Ministry invites to such a meeting. So this clearly gives us a reason for being optimistic, I think. Next, please. So I also put in a slide where I put up our goals, because in regards to the roadmap, from our point of view, it's very important that it consists of clear and ambitious goals, both for hydrogen production, but also for hydrogen infrastructure. And we have recommended specific goals for the next 10 years. And we are well aware of that this is not written in stone, and some of our members think this is a bit too pessimistic. Some are thinking, okay, this is perhaps a bit optimistic. And I guess that the answer lays in the future, but hopefully we will reach these goals, and in cooperation with the Nordic and our European friends. So next, please. So just briefly would like to say a few things about the areas we know we can play a key role internationally within hydrogen. And there are 3 specific areas that we look at when Norway has a key role. And the first is as a large-scale hydrogen producer of both green and blue hydrogen. And in regards to green hydrogen, almost all the electricity in Norway comes from hydropower, and represent a great opportunity for us for large-scale hydrogen production from electrolysis. And blue hydrogen can be produced from natural gas, biocarbon capture and storage, which Norway now really is looking into and has decided to do with the project Longship. So a member says that 95% and more, hopefully, of the CO2 content of natural gas may be captured and stored, and resulting in hydrogen with a very low carbon footprint, and the potential volume is quite significant. So this is going to be very exciting if we are able to succeed. And the second is as an exporter of hydrogen and hydrogen technologies. You may know the electrolyzers from Nel and composite tanks from Hexagon, for instance, but as I mentioned earlier, there are several other companies now looking into to producing different types of equipment. And third is as an early user in hydrogen, Norway will be able to produce and export attractive products with a low CO2 print. And there is several exciting upcoming projects here, and for example, the production of green steel and fertilizers, for instance. So I think that was what I wanted to say about this. Next, please. I think there is one more slide. Yes, as I mentioned, there are several activities all over the country and in all sectors. And we have recently made an overview of some of the large projects that is known today. And on that list, there are more than 40 projects. But this does not include all the research and development projects. So there are a lot more projects, but some of the largest projects are counting over 40. So a lot are happening, and it's in almost all parts of the country as well. So this is very exciting, and I'm having a meeting with Enova later today about IPCEI, and hopefully a lot of the projects that we have on our list is now sent into Enova, who is the agency that is sort of following up IPCEI in Norway. So it will be exciting. So I hope this gave you a brief overview of the policy and the initiatives in Norway. And as I said, we look forward to future cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ingebjørg. So Brigitte will take over now. So thank you a lot.
Thank you.
And thank you, Thijs, also.
Bonjour, donc je me présente, Brigitte Marcel, je suis chargée d'affaires export. Je travaille pour le bureau de Business France à Copenhague au Danemark et je suis chargée du secteur industrie et clean tech depuis 2009. Donc avant d'aller plus en détail dans le programme de notre Business Expedition Hydrogène au Danemark et en Norvège, qui aura lieu donc du 6 au 9 septembre 2021. Next slide. Slide suivante. Oui, quelques mots très rapides sur la stratégie danoise pour le développement de l'hydrogène vert via le concept Power-to-X. Ça vous a déjà été exposé en partie par Thijs, mais en deux mots, il s'agit donc de production massive d'hydrogène vert à partir des énergies renouvelables. En l'occurrence, pour le Danemark, il s'agit de l'énergie éolienne, pour produire de l'hydrogène, mais aussi ce qu'on appelle des carburants verts, ce que vous pouvez voir donc sur la slide, destinés à approvisionner les transports routiers, ferroviaires, maritimes et, on l'espère, aériens. Slide suivante. Donc, le programme débutera au Danemark le lundi 6 septembre avec un séminaire donc, qui aura lieu le matin. Il y aura un discours d'ouverture par l'ambassadrice de France au Danemark, Caroline Ferrari. On y invitera évidemment Thijs qui vous exposera en détail le secteur de l'hydrogène au Danemark. Nous inviterons aussi la RTE danoise, Energinet, qui vous exposera la stratégie Power-to-X de façon plus technique. Et puis évidemment, on fera intervenir des industries, notamment via leur fédération, qui rassemble donc toutes les sociétés, excusez-moi, spécialisés dans l'énergie et dans l'électrification, Danish Energy. Nous y inviterons aussi un des acteurs les plus importants, Ørsted, qui, comme vous le savez, participe à de nombreux projets de production d'hydrogène vert au Danemark, mais aussi en Allemagne, en Grande-Bretagne et dans les Pays-Bas. Et puis, nous allons solliciter donc la participation d'un parc industriel spécialisé dans l'économie circulaire, mais aussi le stockage d'énergie, la production d'énergie renouvelable et évidemment la production d'hydrogène vert. Et puis, il nous est paru intéressant aussi de convier la municipalité de Copenhague pour nous exposer un petit peu leurs projets en matière de transport à hydrogène, sachant que les municipalités danoises se sont engagées à se débarrasser de leurs véhicules émetteurs de CO2 d'ici 2030. L'après-midi sera consacré à la visite de la centrale de production d'hydrogène H2RES. C'est un projet qui est mené, qui est piloté par Ørsted. Vous pouvez voir donc la liste des partenaires sur cette slide. Ce projet a obtenu un financement d'environ 4,7 millions d'euros pour la construction d'une électrolyse de 2 MW avec évidemment stockage d'énergie. Cette installation donc produira jusqu'à environ maintenant 1000 kg d'hydrogène vert par jour et utilisera l'électricité de 2 éoliennes offshore pour produire de l'hydrogène toujours pour les transports, notamment les bus, les camions et potentiellement les taxis. Le soir, nous aurons un cocktail de networking qui aura lieu à l'ambassade de France. Slide suivante. Et enfin, le mardi 7 septembre, ce sera consacré au projet Is-Energy, toujours dans cette même problématique. Donc, on se rendra à la raffinerie Shell, qui est basée donc, dans le Jutland, à Fredericia, donc toujours pour produire de l'hydrogène par électrolyse à grande échelle. Et l'objectif, c'est d'approvisionner en hydrogène renouvelable la raffinerie elle-même, ainsi que les véhicules utilitaires électriques à pile à combustible, légers et lourds, opérant dans la région. Ce consortium du projet est mené par toute une série de sociétés. Vous pouvez les voir donc listées, notamment par Everfuel d'Europe. Et ce projet a obtenu un financement de 6 millions d'euros de l'Agence danoise de l'énergie. Donc voilà en quelques mots ce programme pour le Danemark et je donne la parole à ma collègue de Norvège, Mathilde. À toi, Mathilde.
Bonjour à tous. Donc merci Brigitte. Je me présente, je suis Mathilde Heggelund, franco-norvégienne et j'accompagne les entreprises françaises sur le marché depuis bientôt 6 ans. Donc pour la suite du programme de notre Business Expedition, Après 2 jours au Danemark, le voyage se poursuivra vers Oslo, en Norvège. Donc pour la première journée, le 8 septembre, nous vous proposons la participation à un forum franco-norvégien sur l'hydrogène. Donc, voilà. Nous aurons l'honneur d'avoir avec nous l'ambassadeur de France en Norvège pour cet événement, ainsi que plusieurs donneurs d'ordre publics et privés, et nos partenaires locaux qui partageront avec nous les tendances et projets significatifs en cours ou à venir en Norvège. Le focus sera fait sur les opportunités de coopération franco-norvégienne. En plus des présentations, nous aurons des panels permettant plus d'interaction avec les participants. Pour terminer cette première matinée, il y aura une session de pitch durant laquelle vous aurez l'opportunité de pitcher vos solutions. Et on poursuivra l'après-midi sur une présentation des opportunités d'accès au financement de l'innovation pour les projets hydrogène. Session suivie de rendez-vous B2B avec les autres participants du forum. Pour la deuxième journée en Norvège, nous aurons au programme des visites de sites, dont le port d'Oslo. Nous vous présenterons également les solutions à hydrogène pour les transports en commun des communes d'Oslo et Akershus. Donc, durant ces 2 jours à Oslo, la Business Expedition vous permettra d'avoir une bonne vue d'ensemble des projets en Norvège du domaine de l'hydrogène, ainsi que les opportunités de collaboration qu'il peut y avoir entre la France et la Norvège sur ce sujet qui est au cœur de la stratégie pour atteindre les objectifs ambitieux de réduction des émissions de CO2. Donc, si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à nous écrire dans le chat et nous reviendrons vers vous par email ensuite. Donc, pour toute autre question sur ce projet, vous pouvez contacter ma collègue Brigitte au Danemark et moi-même en Norvège aux adresses email indiquées à l'écran. Donc, merci beaucoup pour votre attention et on espère vous voir bientôt dans nos pays, au Danemark et en Norvège.